Greeks called the art of public speaking rhetoric techne, or the art of rhetoric. The ancient manuals underlined that a good orator needs to set himself three objectives. Docere, inform the subject of the speech. Movere, move and involve the audience. Delectare, present the topics with energy in order to avoid boredom. A lot of people think that if a person isn't born as an orator, he or she will never become one. Whereas all of us can learn how to speak in public, but many of us don't feel comfortable in this role because no one has ever told us how we can manage to do so. As Cesare Sansavini said, a strong weapon that differs us from the other human beings is the word, but we often underestimate its power. So, why are we afraid to speak in public? Simply because speaking in public is something new for us, or because we have had some unfortunate previous experiences. Moreover, we don't develop an attitude towards public speaking during our formative years, that means before 20 years of age. And living with a communicative problem means not being able to impose your ideas in front of a group when the occasion calls for it. When we talk about communication, our mind immediately goes to the traditional language for excellence. Generally, we tend to underestimate all the other tools we use to convey or to strengthen our message. These tools are obviously the words, but also the tone and volume of voice and non-verbal language, represented by eye contact, gestures, posture, etc. The evaluation of the communicative effectiveness of these tools was proved by the results on communication studies carried out in the 60s in the United States by Albert Berabian. He noted how, in a normal dialogue, the receiving of the message is given only for 7% by the words, 38% by tone of voice, and 55% from non-verbal language. So we can say that an orator lacking in energy and dynamism will not be communicative. Napoleon said, "To make yourself understood to people, one must first speak to their eyes." And the eye contact is the most powerful communicative means that we have. We often see orators that are afraid of making eye contact with the audience, and they stare into space, or they just scan people. That means to focus the attention just on one person for a very short period of time. The ability of the orator consists in directing one's glance to each person with regular intervals. Moreover, when we are in front of an audience, we feel all eyes upon us, and we are afraid of exceeding with gestures. However, in order to support the thesis of the fundamental importance of gestures, we take Desmond Morris as an example. He shows the results of a report carried out in the University of Manchester, England, where a group of volunteers have listened to some stories. It was demonstrated that those who had heard the stories with words and gestures were able to recall details up to 3 times as more than those who had heard only the verbal narration. Another important element that conveys a sense of professionalism is posture, even if some attitudes can convey a negative sensation to the audience, such as hands on sides, also known as Mussolini position, gives the sensation of arrogance. Crossed arms gives the sensation of closure, and thumbs on the belt on your pants, also known as John Wayne pose, is not a professional posture. Voice is another element that contributes to the building of the professional orator image. All of us know that if we start a meeting with a classic faint voice, we portray the image of a worried orator. Often the voice is lower at the start of the meeting because of the high levels of tension. The proof of this happens every time when at the beginning of the meeting from the bottom of the room we hear, "Speak up, we can't hear anything." In this case, the solution is to mentally think towards the farthest people in the room. If we talk about tone, we have to know that also the tone of our voice has a strong communicative weight. Flat tones create flat presentations. As Dale Carnegie said, In a speech, there is something more than mere words, the tone by which the words are pronounced. It is not only what you say, but how you say it. The ability of expression has always been considered the fundamental requisite of a good orator. It's true that a natural ability in speaking facilitates communication, but speech needs to be accompanied by other communicative needs, such as elocution, examples, and pauses. Practically, etc., are sounds or expressions, also known as no words, and the no words are unpleasant. Think about those orators whose speech is filled with or think about those who regularly use filler words such as like, or. Some participants are amused by counting how many times this happens. Speaking about stress, in an English survey, the fear of speaking in public is in first place among the interviewees' phobias, before the fear of war, natural catastrophes, snakes, and death. Adrenaline causes stress, but it is also indispensable for the human being in order to face difficult situations. So, stress isn't only a negative phenomenon. Sport champions and show business people know this very well. Can you imagine if an Olympic final of 100 meters, an athlete began yawning before the start? Therefore, stress is a positive and productive phenomenon, but we have to maintain it under the critical threshold. In fact, there are two types of stress: eustress, distress. The first type is also called active stress and produces a positive reaction to a tense situation. The second is negative, and the individual is not able to adapt himself to the stress factors. Speaking about the figure of the interpreter, we have to know that he plays a particular role during the conference. He isn't the primary orator, and neither the receiver, but he is the sender and the receiver too. He receives the message from the orator, but he has to transform himself into an orator in order to explain the content of the message to the listener who doesn't understand the language of the primary orator. To conclude, this thesis wants to demonstrate that the interpreter is considered an orator from all points of view, and in the educational path, it is necessary to include activities with the aim of acquiring communicative skills that allow people to face the act of speaking in public with self-confidence. Hence, beyond the profession, it is important to say that every educational path with the aim of improving personal self-confidence and the awareness of its own role in society is useful for all. Through techniques, advice, and examples, this thesis hopes to communicate that speaking in public puts the individual at ease, gives self-confidence, and the individual feels complete. There are no valid reason for a person to say, "No, I can't do it." We can't all do it.